next level, games as investments. So basically, Chris Quaidoo, professional investor at Griffin Gaming Partners, one of the most important funds of the gaming industry, talks about his job, career, and also compares investments in games and other industries. So this session is in English, okay? So just as I said, if you want to watch it in Portuguese, just access the link for the translation here on the channel, all right? So let's welcome Luiz Ojima Sakuda, professor and partner at Homo Ludens. He's a moderator. How are you?
Hi, guys.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us. And Chris Quaidoo, associate at Griffin Gaming Partners. How are you, Chris?
Doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited as well. So the screen is yours, guys. Good luck.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, well, first of all, thanks a lot, Chris, for joining us. It was really good to have you here.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, as we, I think first you could talk a little about your career and what
Sure.
what you do, and then we can ask some follow-up questions. If you guys that are watching us, please want to ask something, please, as Barbara said, type on the chat, and we will do the best to answer the questions. Okay. Okay, Chris, all yours.
Awesome. Yeah. So I have spent my whole career as an investor, primarily in the technology sector. I initially started out as a research analyst covering publicly traded technology stocks. I've covered a number of different areas within tech, including gaming, of course, but also some large internet companies, semiconductor companies, enterprise software, and a number of others. Some of the companies that I've led investments on in the past in the public markets include Activision Blizzard and Glue Mobile, so some of the largest gaming companies out there. On the personal side, gaming is my passion, just as it is for everyone on the Griffin team. I've been a gamer my entire life. I was a very serious Halo player for a while, which is why I have all this Halo stuff behind me. I've played with some of the best Halo players in the world as well. And separately, I have a podcast called Venture Games, in which I host conversations with people either in venture capital or the gaming industry. So my role at Griffin Gaming Partners, in venture, I think it's pretty common to hear that, the day-to-day can vary quite significantly. But some of the things that I'm tasked with are sourcing investments, performing diligence to help evaluate the viability of an investment. So this can include things like playtesting games, which is pretty fun. And then some other things like financial modeling, research on an industry or a company, deep dives on a genre, deep dives on a geography, those sorts of things. Additionally, we assist our portfolio companies in a number of different ways. I think it depends sort of by level how you are actually assisting the portfolio companies. I'll get into how the partners assist our portfolio companies a little bit later. But for me, it's included things like tests like play testing new games that are coming out, to help these companies understand, sort of like how they could improve these games. And then looking at like competitive analysis for a company, analyzing genres, those sorts of things. So Griffin's investment thesis, we're a 250 million AUM fund, approximately, investing singularly in the gaming industry. We are technically stage agnostic, though we tend to skew a bit later stage. So we have roughly 15 investments. About a third have been at the early stage, so roughly seed stage, and then about 2/3 have been more at the growth stage. As far as what we look for, we invest in companies in the early and late stages, in the infrastructure and the content side globally. So ideally, we're shooting to be roughly 50%, more on the content side and developer side, and then 50% in tech and infrastructure. As far as our role as an investor, we've led investment rounds and we've also followed on. So there's flexibility there as well. And so I want to dive into the partnership briefly because I think the partnership is one thing that really differentiates Griffin, and I hope to show why. Right. So the first partner is Peter Levin. He is previously the co-founder and CEO of Nerdist Industries, which he sold to Legendary Entertainment. He also serves as the chairman of Immortals Gaming Club, which is an esports organization, and he served as the president
I know.
of Interactive Ventures, Games, and Digital Strategy at Lionsgate. And so one of Peter's, superpowers, if you will, is sort of like biz dev and IP integrations and partnerships. And so Peter's worked on some of the largest IP deals in gaming, including bringing John Wick to Fortnite, Candy Crush to CBS, and Hellboy to Brawlhalla, among many others. Next, we have Phil. Phil is sort of the prototypical VC of the group. He's spent the past 20 plus years in the VC industry, primarily in gaming and interactive entertainment. He was the first investor into Discord and the first investor into Pandora. And that's just a small selection of what he's done. He's invested in dozens of companies to date throughout his career. And then third, we have LionTree. LionTree is an investment bank focused on TMT, which is technology, media, and telecom. LionTree's stake in the business is represented by Nick Tuosto. And Nick's background is he was previously managing director and global co-head of internet and digital media at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. Throughout Nick's career, he's advised on some of the largest deals in gaming, including the sale of Supercell to Tencent and the sale of Kabam to Netmarble. And these are obviously large names that I'm sure a lot of people on this call are familiar with. Okay, so then touching on Griffin's competencies, as I mentioned before, the partnership itself, each of the three partners brings a unique and differentiated skill set, and the skill sets of the partners are complementary, right? And so just taking a LionTree, for example, given Nick has these strong relationships with some of the largest gaming companies out there, including publicly traded ones, it's easy for us to say, hey, we're looking at XYZ company, is this a trend or a business that you guys find interesting? And that can help us gauge what the later players in the market, who are potentially acquirers or partners to some of our portfolio companies, are looking for. And we think that is a strength that really differentiates Griffin. Additionally, we have a strong LP base, and we have really good relationships with our LPs. And so we don't disclose the list of LPs, but they're some of the largest gaming and media companies across the globe. And so similarly to my comment on LionTree, one, it helps us understand what these companies are looking for, but two, it helps us actually bring strategic value to our companies, right? So whether it's one of those IP partnerships, like I alluded to before, right, or something along those lines, or we've actually co-invested in companies with some of our LPs, right? And so we can say, hey, we're looking at XYZ company. We think you guys could add a lot of value. Would you want to invest with us? And we've created some really strong partnerships between some of our portfolio companies and some of our LPs, and we think that's another way Griffin adds a lot of value. We like to joke and say we add some of the benefits of being a strategic without actually having a strategic on your cap table. Finally, sort of as I alluded to before, we've actually put together full investment rounds for some of our portfolio companies, right? And so this has just added tremendous opportunities for sort of all the players that are at the table when we're making investments. And then finally, we do invest internationally. We are looking to deploy capital in the region. We've looked at companies like potential investments on all continents. And so please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email at chris@griffingp.com, and I would love to connect with some of the people watching this.
Okay, nice, Chris. Thanks for your brief representation. I noticed that we really have a worldwide portfolio at Griffins. You have people in Japan, in Turkey. Actually, one thing that most of the companies are based on the central countries, but actually Spike is based in Turkey.
Right.
So how do you how do you get those opportunities in emerging companies, emerging companies of emerging countries,
Yeah.
and what you would you like to invest in studios based in Latin America, and what you look for? What is the what about studios and content uh, on the content side?
Yeah, that's a great question. So number one, it ties back to the comment that I made before at the beginning of the presentation that all three of the partners and everyone on the team has spent their entire careers in and around gaming, right? And so it's not like we just created this fund and now we're building all these new relationships,
Yes.
right? Like the partners have had these established relationships across the globe, for decades, right? And so Peter has sat on boards in multiple different countries. Nick obviously has worked on deals across different countries. Phil has worked on deals across different countries. So it's a combination of inbound, from just the various people that the partnership and the rest of the Griffin team has been able to meet over the years, as well as if there's a company that we hear about that we don't have a direct connection, we typically can find a connection there. They're typically just, one or two or three links away from us, right? So that's how we have been able to make a lot of those connections. As far as Latin America, I would say what is promising, obviously like economic growth, more growth of gamers just generally, growth of people being connected on mobile, et cetera, like all those macro trends. As far as the thesis that we look for in Latin America specifically, I would say it doesn't really differ much from the firm's general thesis as far as what we'd look for in investments, though we would probably skew more mobile.
Okay. Uh, do you think there is still misunderstanding about the role of the venture capital in game industry? Because most of, especially the studios, are very used to publishers.
Hmm.
But when what do you think that is they can expect from someone as Griffin, and what they should not expect as your role is a little different from a
Sure.
publisher?
Yeah, so I would say absolutely. I do think it is still misunderstood. One big like major example, right, is when you have an agreement with a publisher versus a VC. The economics are obviously different, right? Publishers are going to take a significant
Yes,
take.
totally.
So that's one major difference. On the other side of things, Griffin is not going to be able to publish your game, right? So we can we can help out as far as funding growth and making some of these introductions and providing strategic guidance and leadership given the long and impressive backgrounds of the partners, right? But at the end of the game, at the end of the day, you have to get your game built and developed and published. So that's something that we would not be able to help with. Or I should say it's not something we could directly help with, though we could make some introductions for sure.
There's a question from the audience
Hmm.
here. Uh, how should a small studio with a small game projects approach you? Where do they start? What do you need
Yeah.
to
So yeah, this is a great question. I'll say, generally, I think I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. I have a pretty unique name, So you can find me on LinkedIn quite easily. I've given my email again. It's chris@griffingp.com. So feel free to reach out either with a note, asking a question, or feel free to send the pitch deck with a blurb, and we're happy to take a look. As far as what do we need? Again, so as I noted before, while we do look at seed investments, we tend to skew later, right? And so, obviously, just for full transparency, the more metrics and the more traction, et cetera, the better. But obviously,
Mhm.
not everyone has those proven metrics and that proven traction already. So if you don't have those, other ways to show that your venture is promising could be very helpful as far as getting us over the finish line, right? So it could either be the backgrounds of the teams, or something like, hey, we rolled out this beta and 1,000 people played it, but the metrics were phenomenal. Like these are the metrics. I think those are some things that could help us get over the finish line.
For someone that wants to start a career on your side of
Hmm.
the table, what would you say to them? What are
Yeah.
some tips? Yeah.
So I don't know the nuances as far as in
Uh-huh.
Latin America how that would work. I know here it tends to be a very network driven business, and a relationships business, right? And so my suggestions would be to find connections at VCs and think of ways to add value, right? And so one thing that you hear commonly over here is even if you aren't working for a VC, if you can still make helpful introductions, whether it's to a founder that fits the company's thesis, or just making a valuable connection to another investor so that you guys can co-invest down the line, or things like that. I think all those things are extremely valuable. Another example is doing a deep dive on some sort of industry or genre of game that could be really interesting for a VC to look at that maybe they haven't invested in, that you think they should have on the radar, right? These are ways that you can sort of do the job without actually having the job. And
Hmm.
I know of a number of cases of people who have done that. And then when it's time for a VC firm to hire, they're like, hey, you know, person X did all these, great projects for us. Why don't we see if they're willing to work with us?
Okay. Do you think that the future of our industry, and especially the future of funds, focus on gaming and games and sports,
Mhm.
etc. What do you think that will? Do you think that will grow, and do you think they will specialize? What do you think that no, it will be more umbrella like yours that has a lot of different and complementary companies?
Mhm.
How do you see that?
Yeah, there's another great question. I think what you've seen is probably within gaming. I think funds have tended to go a bit wider. So for a while there were some funds, focus on esports or focus on VR or those sorts of things. Whereas I think they've started to go wider. So I think that's probably the trend on sort of a micro level. On the other hand, on a macro level, I expect to see more of sort of the generalist VCs that do a good amount of gaming investing to continue to make gaming specialized funds, right? And we've seen this in the US. We've already seen a number of VCs, large VCs that have been doing gaming investing say, hey, we really need to focus on this vertical.
Mhm.
Gaming, obviously, as you know, is in the early innings, right? And the growth is incredible. The market size is incredible. And so I think we're still in the early to mid innings. And so I expect more and more attention and more funds to flow into the space going forward.
Nice.
Hmm.
One more question from the audience.
Sure.
I already have three games alone, made three games alone. Is it worth for looking for investment? His difficulty is marketing.
Yeah, this is a great question. So, I would again probably think about the pros and cons of having an investor versus having a publisher
Yes.
agreement, right? Like at the end of the day, even if you get investment, you still need to market your game, right? And so you're gonna need a viable path to get your game in front of people. So while an investor can definitely help with those sorts of things, it could potentially make sense to go the publishing route. I think it depends more specifically sort of on what the specific needs are.
Yeah, probably if he just can need the money for marketing,
Right.
well, that's the publishers. But if he needs more know-how, maybe he needs more to leverage and hire some specialists and get a better team. Maybe he have to. So it's a company. So
Right.
maybe he should look for the VC probably.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
Okay.
another great point too, right? Like VCs, and Griffin has done this as well, can sometimes help as far as identifying a key hire. And this is something that we've
Mhm.
done for our portfolio companies here at Griffin.
Nice, nice. And so you have, I saw that the companies are really interesting of your portfolio. And how do they help each other, or and how do you manage to look out for a lot of at the same time? And how does it work?
Yeah, so I think it depends. I think the partners are split as far as companies that we have board seats on. I think when there is a case that a portfolio company is complementary to another one, that's obviously a relationship that we can facilitate quite easily. I think that's something that you'll see across VC firms though as well.
Mhm. Great. Do you have something more to say to the Brazilian audience, and actually to the global audience, but anyway, especially to the Brazilian and Latin American audience?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I would say the biggest thing is, it's an exciting time to be in the gaming industry, and we
Yes.
are happy to deploy capital in the region. And so please, please feel free to reach out.
Is including investors, because here in Brazil, we have many investors that are looking to the game industry and esports, etc. But they don't have well, they came from tech, so it's a different, well,
Yeah.
it's a totally different investment thesis, and they don't feel comfortable to the game industry. Can they reach you too?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we
Or
have
they should?
yeah, no, I mean, we've co-invested with a number of different partners, right? And so, we like to say we play nice with others, and so, I say don't hesitate to reach out.
Nice.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, so that's so probably we will be able to do more other contests in the future, maybe some other events, and
Yeah, that'd
so
be great.
we can make this bridge stronger. Thanks a
Definitely.
lot, Chris. Thanks a lot for joining us. And I think will be just the first talking for the Brazilian audience here.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, thank you all and well, keep in touch. You can, as Chris said, you can contact him by LinkedIn. You can contact me by LinkedIn also. Feel free to get the conversation going later. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Luis and Chris. This was a really important theme for our developers. And when we're talking about you at home watching us, please don't forget to send our link to your friends, to your family, and share Big Festival with everyone, because we have lots of content and lots of stuff to do at bigfestival.com.br. I'll be back really soon with our next session, okay? So I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Big Festival 2021, the biggest games festival in Latin America.